This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, I let you guys vote on again what the next video would be, and you guys have a really good habit of surprising me. So, surprise! We are actually going to be making Wolf Link from the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which happens to be one of my favorite Zeldas. So let's get started. To start, we grab some tin foil, aluminum foil, or aluminium foil, and squish it into the rough head shape I'm going for, which in this case happens to be Wolfo shape. I do this because clay is heckin' expensive and we want to save as much as possible. I then take said clay and wrap it around the foil and start pushing the clay around and building up the face. For his eyes, I'm just using some tiny glass cabochons. That way I have no chance of accidentally smushing. I am notoriously heavy-handed and clay eyes fear me. While sculpting Link Beast mode, I'm making sure to use a ton of, say it with me people, say it with me, references people, references! Both realistic and game references, so I can find a nice middle in Uncanny Valley. But seriously, I do want this to be more stylized, but still have some real world vibes. Sculpting with me is chaos, and I am all over the place, building up here, taking away here. I have no idea how some folk give off that aesthetic, I know what I'm doing and what to do vibe, where I give off a goblin, throw it together and see what happens vibe. And since you're watching this, you must relate to that. So, hello my fellow goblins, how are you doing? I did a similar fur method to my Bumble Bear where I built up a clay mound around the edges, scored it and gouged into it to get a rough fur texture layout for later on, and this just helped the face to look a little bit fuller. I want to give Link a more stern, angry expression, so I'm scoring where I want to add his grumpy wrinkles. Then I'll add little noodles of clay on top of it and blend them into the muzzle just to give more height to them. You know, like they're actually, well, grumpy wrinkles. Then we can't forget to give him a nose to sniff out all those rubies. Give them all to me, I want to be rich. To texture the fur on his face, I make a bajillion tiny strokes all over the face in varying directions to make sure I give flow to the fur, making it look more realistic and to hide any anatomy mistakes I may have made. Listen to me, folks. Visual noise will hide all your flaws. For his nose texture, I literally just use one of my clay tools that have a bumpy texture just to give that nice porous nose look that noses have. And then once all the sculpting is done, I brush on some alcohol just to soften all these sharp lines and to make everything blend in nicely with each other. Now, because I'm all about working smarter, not harder, that's totally a lie, I decided to use some spare 3D printed paws I had, but here's a quick rundown on how they're made. And yes, I'm reusing footage, bite me. And while these paws are curing, let's take a second to talk about this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Little adventurer has been roaming the lands of Hyrule looking for monsters to slay and treasures to find. While out in the wild, he loves to help adventurers stock up for the road ahead with his online shop, and Squarespace is the perfect platform to help him out. On his website, you can see his latest portfolio and behind the scenes of all his latest adventures. And if you're low on potions or arrows, not to worry, Little Adventurer has you covered, since Squarespace has a built-in e-commerce where he can sell, ship, and track everything in-house. And now that he's becoming a well-known name, Squarespace makes it even easier to integrate his social media account so everyone can see his wares and latest adventurer tales. So if you would like to be like Little Adventurer, head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/kpcreations to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And thank you once again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Before I start the armature, I glue one piece into the foot. It's just easier to do this beforehand rather than after. And then it's time for ASMR armature time. Dude, what is happening here? To attach the head to the armature, I stab the back of the head into the foil, and then I fill that hole with goop, aka hot glue, and I just stick the armature spine into that hole until it cools, and the glue will just lock in place so it'll never come out. Once that's done, it's time to build up the body, and for that I'm using quilt batting. It comes in these long sheets because they're made for quilts, and I'll cut it into strips and wrap it around the armature over and over until the body is built up to how I want. I make sure not to build up too much, keeping in mind the thickness of the fabric I'm going for. But like I always say, if you want chunk 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 boy, you go and you get chunk 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 boy. If you want thin 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 boy, you go and you get thin 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 boy, okay? We support all body shapes and sizes here. Now, I don't think Link would get very far in his adventures if he was chunk chunk chunk, but now all I can imagine is a chubby Link just rolling down a hill with a bunch of like bokoblins running after him, and that is a wonderful image. As usual, I'm not the channel to come to for competent sewing advice, as I certainly haven't a clue what I'm doing half the time. That's even more true with this video when I realized I didn't have enough of one type of white fur, but rather a random assortment of scraps of different lengths and textures of white fur. And because I'm horrible at time management, I didn't have enough time to order more. So, jigsaw puzzle was the way to go. Hopefully, once it's trimmed, you won't even be able to tell, except for the fact that I just told you, so just forget everything I said. This is all totally intentional. Now, Link is somewhere in that fluff. Ah, he's right there. To trim the fur down, I'm using a pet shaver, and it works really stupid well with faux fur, and it comes with different guards to keep the fur smooth and even at whatever length I want. But even still, I always go back and detail with scissors to make sure the legs and joints are prominent and look more natural and less emaciated looking. Let's be honest, it doesn't look very pretty. Before I start airbrushing the body, I prime the clay and resin pieces in a nice bright white. And once that's done, I'm going to be using my dual action gravity feed airbrush to add all the colors of the rainbow, which in the world of Twilight Princess wasn't many, pretty dreary if you ask me. But I make sure to just do really light passes with the airbrush to make sure I don't overdo it and make the fur really crunchy or stiff. As long as you be really light and not heavy-handed, which is my problem if you saw the very first beginning of this video. I'm heavy-handed. It makes the fur not really textured, and so you're pretty much good to do whatever you want. Last step is painting. Now, I'll admit, my dumb butt forgot to press record, so there's a bit of a jump in the process, but that's okay, because I honestly think for the majority of what you missed, it was just me staring at it wondering if it looked bad or not. And I'm still undecided on that front, if I'm gonna be honest again. But anyway, I did a lot of wet blending where you quickly blend colors into each other before the paint dries to give a nicer gradient, except you essentially only have one shot as it's crazy hard to touch up. It's a fun game of, will I f up or not? For his mouth, I lined it with black and immediately missed paint. But like all happy accidents, we'll just get rid of that with a little bit of titanium white. Keeping with the game theme, I kept his eye base white and gave the signature dazzling blue eyes. I can tell I wasn't on my A game when it came to his face markings and was struggling a bit. I hadn't realized how wonky it was until I tipped his head up and oh, yeah, let's fix that real quick. Yeah, that's much better. We also can't forget the toe beans and claws. They get a nice toe bean and claw black. Now, I can't forget to make his I'm a cool kid shackle, and I turned to none other than Cosclay. This amazing clay stays flexible once baked and is perfectly suited to bend open to go on and off his foot because I can't exactly bake it with it on. I don't know what that would do to him, actually. I don't want to put him in the oven to test that out, so we're just going to take this off, and that's why Cosclay is an amazing thing for this. So once I baked it, I primed it in a dark gray, and then I just went over that with a dry brush of a kind of silvery type of gray. I don't know why I just didn't use metallics. I must have just forgot, so I just made up a note like, yeah, that looks silvery enough, even though the silver was probably next to me the entire time I worked on this, but it's fine, it's whatever. I also painted the chain to match the shackle. Now, I was gonna call it there, but I just feel like something's missing. Or someone. One second. Yeah, he feels much more complete now. Okay, now we're done and we can get to the final result.